Hello everybody, here a new video from Renee from Spain, and in this video I really want to show some great vinyl that I have been playing at work. Discos que he escuchado en mi tienda. You know, records I got from my collection, took them to the shop, and of course there I play them when there were no customers in the shop. Me encanta pinchar heavy en la tienda. Solo cuando no entran clientes. Cuando entran clientes, pues no puedo, porque la gente se asusta. You know, cuando oyen heavy, pues se van. Anyway, let's start with a Dutch band. And this Dutch band only released one album in the 80s. They had a kind of a comeback, but I don't think they released on other records. I'm not sure about it. But the band I'm talking about is Blackout, with the album Evil Game. This came out on Roadrunner Records. And I have something to say about this, because this is really a good album from 1984. Just European heavy metal, you know, what the sound of back then. You know, this was the sound, you know, the heavy metal bands had back then. Some heavy rock too in it still. Some heavy songs, some speed songs too. Just a great album with many great songs. These guys were definitely influenced by Saxon. And maybe also Jaguar, you know, and Satan, bands like that. Savage, the first Savage album. Definitely a UK feeling. But they were from the Netherlands. And I wrote to them, because back in the 90s, I wrote to quite a few of the vinyl I had in my collection. And I found the addresses on here. For sure there must be an address on here somewhere. Or I found it somewhere, maybe in a fencing. But I wrote them, and they wrote back. Actually, the guitar player wrote back. And he sent me this photo. And this photo should have been on the back. Should have been here somewhere. But they never used this photo. There's no photo of the band on this album at all. And he wrote to me also a letter. It was very cool. And the guy that wrote me back was the guitar player. Mannes van Oosten, I think. It's here. Mannes van Oosten. Rhythm and lead guitar. Quite nice. They were really happy that I wrote to them. And then he gave me some information that also there was going to be a CD release, and that is t-shirt for sale and stuff like that. Really cool. Another very cool thing. Last week I went to see with my wife, you know, just together. We went to see Iron Curtain in Valencia, Cryptos, and yes, there was one more band. Oh yes, what's the name? Raven Fire from Madrid. Actually, of those three bands, you can find videos on my channel. But another band that played, and I didn't make a video because just at that moment I was not in the mood to make it. Now I regret it really, because they really gave a great show. I mean, great concert. And I'm talking about the Italian Bunker 66, Inferno Interceptors, and this is just a trio. Very much influenced by Warfare, Bulldozer, Schizo maybe too, you know, from their country. Necrodead, the early Necrodead, you know, the demo maybe, and the first album by Necrodead. You know, they're influenced by that, even by a later band that I really like a lot, and that one is Baphomet Blood, you know. But this Bunker 66 is a great metal punk, thrash, dirty rock and roll, you know, great band. You know, they're big fans of Bathory and like Venom, like I said too. This is a great album by them. They have quite a few splits and albums already, and some EPs. Bunker 66. Check them out if you don't know them. They're really good. And now a band from the 80s, but it went on through the 90s. But they started like a power metal band, like a power heavy metal band, but later they maybe some thrash metal, but later they became more thrashcore, and then, you know, they got more like into Pantera kind of sound. But I'm talking about Aspits from Catalonia, Oscura Reflexión. And this was their first mini LP, quite rare nowadays, from 1989. Ángel de Destrucción is a great song. Espíritu del Metal is mola mucho. This is a great EP. Another Spanish release, and this was the second album by Brücke. You know, Brücke, was a band formed by Pedro Brücke. And also here on this album, we have the guitar player of Zeus on here. But this doesn't sound so heavy metal like the first album. The first album is really heavy metal. This is more hard rock with some pop rock and AOR touches too. It still has a couple of good songs, a couple of ballads. It's not a bad release, but it's not close by the first album. The first album was really good with the song Beirut or El Heavy No Es Violencia. Check out that song by Brücke, El Heavy No Es Violencia. And of course, Pedro Brücke, he had a kind of a colectivo heavy back in the 80s. And he was a member of THRASH also back then. Okay, now some more well-known stuff that I played in the shop. I had to play it a little low because I thought if somebody else comes in. Because normally I don't really play a lot of thrash metal. But I'm talking about South of Heaven by Slayer. The almighty Slayer. And there's not much I have to say about this. This is just great riffing evil album. So many great songs on here. Mandatory Suicide, the title track. Dissident Aggressor, a great Judas Priest cover song that really kicks ass. And of course, Behind the Crooked Cross, probably my favorite song of the album actually. And here, an unknown band, Bad Lizard, The Power of Destruction. This is again mid-80s European heavy metal. Not a killer release by any means, I have to say that. Power of Destruction. And this came out under the label again, Roadrunner Records. Roadrunner released quite a few like one-offs, like just one release or two releases by a band. For later they signed bigger bands like Merciful Fate, King Diamond went with Roadrunner too, and a lot of other bands. But back then they were really paying attention to the underground, and this is actually a band from Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. 99.9% sure it's from Belgium. And here we have Winger, because Winger, this is the second album by Winger from 1990, I think, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of very strong singles, like Can't Get Enough, of course. And there's some Miles Away too, of course. Miles Away, great ballad. And this is signed actually. I bought it like this back in the 90s in a record fair. I don't know how much you paid for it, maybe 3,000 pesetas. And Kip Winger was signed by Kip Winger. But just now they released a new album called 7. And you really have to check that. Even if you don't like the older stuff, the songwriting of the new album is so strong, so good. And they have, of course, the guitar player still in the band, and the drummer is also in Winger again, plus Kip Winger. Okay, now we go with the Christian. I don't know if they are 100% a Christian band, but it was produced by Michael Sweet. This one, or the EP was produced by Michael Sweet. It's a little dark in here. I cannot really show it, check it out right now. Voices in the Night. Great, hard and heavy. It's very, very cool album. Also, the EP is very good. And then they have also a first album that was really, really good. I think the EP was done by Michael Sweet. Another Slayer, Season in the Abyss. Of course, I had to listen to this again. Great sticker here. And now quite a rare one. Here we have 2 demos by 2 bands. Female bands, you can see it here, there are female bands, and we have here Volcana and Flamea. And I wrote it down here, good songs, bands from Brazil. This is a rare 2002 bootleg. The Volcana songs are 2 songs from the demo Thrush Flowers from '89. And the Flamea songs are from the first Scream demo. And actually, there's quite a cool, on the first Scream demo, there's a very cool cover song by the band, the artist Pat Benatar, Heartbreaker. It's a great song. This is just a great release, really. It came out, I think, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I picked it up back then. Here we have Trust with the album Repression. And this is the English version of the second album. And it came out in 1980. And here we have the songs Antisocial and Sect on it. And both songs were covered by Anthrax. Yeah, great release, this one, of course. You have a little liner notes. Sometimes I like to make little liner notes. If not, I forget it. After a while, you forget things. It's just a great heavy rock album. Really great album. It's just great from the first to the last songs. It's like street heavy rock, It's really well done. Here we have some singles I was playing. I think I will keep going, but if it cuts the video, then it cuts, because I have not so much space on the... I want to show these 2 singles. This is from the 1993 Exposed album, the first Vince Neil solo album that I always loved, the song Sister of Pain. And then we have a cover song, Blondes Have More Fun. And here we have Sensible Shoes by it's a great song actually, with David Lee Roth. And it's a great single from the early 90s. Anvil with an album they released in 2001 on Massacre Records. Plenty of Power, some great songs on here like Ball of Fire, again some cool heavy rock, real metal. This is a little thing I got from the magazine Artsrock. This is a great compilation, Total Destruction, Metal Blade Records. If you did just to present some newer bands back then that people didn't really know about. And I'm talking about Slayer, Bitch, Obsession, Savage Grace, Pandemonium. They were from Alaska actually. They released 3 albums, quite good. Warlord, Trouble, Witch Killer. They released this Day of the Saxons, great mini LP. And this was a great tool to promote a little bit more the bands from Metal Blade Records. And it was also distributed by Enigma Records. They were working together with Enigma back then. Here we have some Manila Road. I'm not the biggest fan of this band, but this is an album on Black Dragon Records from 1988, if I'm not mistaken. It's a little more, not so epic, but it's more to the thrash metal side maybe sometimes. It's still quite cool, this photo, I think. One of the better Manila Road photos, band photos. They have not many great band photos in my opinion. A lot of times they look too hippie. But anyway, this is quite cool. Pokolgep with Totalish Metal. Many years ago I made a video showing my Pokolgep collection. You can check it maybe if you put Pokolgep and then whole spa metal, and then in the search you will find the video, I think. Of course, here we have lot of classics. Atus, Totalish Metal is on here too. Menjit Erch is very good too. That's a great, actually, like kind of a ballad type of song, really good. Yeah, it's just an amazing album by this Hungarian heavy metal band. Great. I bought this in Hungary actually in the 90s, during the 90s. Some newer stuff, Hammerfall with Revolution or Evolution. Hector's Hymn, it's a great song. Bushido was a single, a good song. Yeah, it's not my favorite album by them in any means, but still it's a strong Hammerfall album. I really enjoy this album. This is a gatefold from 2014 on Nuclear Blast. I go on or I stop? It's getting a long video now, eh? Scorpions with Still Loving You, with songs from the 1977 till the 1990 albums. You know, there were two taken from those albums. And Living for Tomorrow, it's an exclusive song that was recorded live in '88 in Leningrad. And they put it on here. And later also they put it on the Live Bites live album by Scorpions. This is just the best of with studio songs, but that song is live. But later, Live Bites, I made a video talking about that live album. Live Bites by Scorpions. Everybody always talk about Worldwide Live. That's, of course, the best Scorpions live album, also for me. I mean, of course, Tokyo Live, they could tell, still tapes, they also love it. But not many people talk about the third live album. You know, this Live Bites, and it's very good too. Check out my review if you have time. Just put Scorpions Live Bites, all spa metal, and then for sure it comes up. Saxon, great live album, also recorded in Budapest, in Hungary, and in some other places in Hungary. Yeah, Eastern Europe, on the road in Eastern Europe and in Budapest. So not only in Hungary, but also in Eastern Europe, in some other places. Of course, it sounds really good. Great second album by Exodus. I mean, a lot of people like the first album more, and me too. I think me too. But this is also very good. And Bifford still, I mean, Balov still co-wrote a couple of songs, like Seeds of Hate, for example, or Pleasures of the Flesh, the title track. But it's just great. I love the song Till Death Do Us Part. It's not really fast, but it's really cool. And Can We Kill? Can We Kill is very cool too. It's just a great album. Even the instrumental 30 seconds is not bad at all. You know, for a lot of people it's a letdown. But for me, I think, you know, I really like this the new vocalist too, to be honest. I think he did a good job on this album. So. Yeah. It's just, it came out with Music for Nation. The cover and the back cover, I don't like them so much, to be honest. Okay. I think I will go to 20. If it cuts, it cuts. But I got a few more here to show. Iron Maiden. I'm going to see them live next month. That's going to be very cool. But, of course, I have to play this album. Dokken. This is the double live album. And it has more songs than the first edition on CD. Later, you know, some CDs had more songs too. But a couple songs here, like Standing in the Shadows, Sleepless Night, and Turn on the Action. Those three songs, you could only find them first, when originally it was released. You could find it on the vinyl and on the tape version. Great live album. One of my favorite live albums from the 80s. I mean, for sure. It's great. Black Lace. They released only 2 albums. They were from New York. Great 2 brothers and a female vocalist. The Fragnito brothers. They also played in Europe. Actually, they played in Belgium in the 80s. And here we have Call of the Wild that I love. Dem Cheater. And actually, later, the Fragnito brothers, they formed an other band called Dem Cheater. You know, later when Black Lace were disbanded. Born to Raise Hell is a good song too. You know, I really like this album very much. You know, and the second album is good too. But this debut album is their best album in my opinion. Vallop, European heavy metal again here. He plays quite a lot of European heavy metal. Metallic Alps. Not the best album you can find. You know, I have to be honest there. But it's still cool to listen to it sometimes. And the last one I'm going to show is Warfare with Pure Filth. I mean, listen to Total Armageddon, uh, Rabbit Metal. I mean, if you are a fan of metal punk, you know, like the mid 80s English Dogs, for example, early Venom, you know, mixed with some Tank, you know, you will love Warfare. You know, I really like this Pure Filth album. You know, it's really cool. It's really great. And that was it. All the vinyl I've been playing for the last 2 weeks at work. I hope you like this long video, and stay metal, everybody.